everybody. Welcome back to a special episode.
You hesitated for a second.
I did.
I was confused.
Episode 86, and today is our wedding anniversary, as we mentioned in our last post.
So we had to dress up.
Yeah, I wore a dress today. We didn't go anywhere.
I actually dressed down a little bit.
You did.
Because I'm wearing a sport coat instead of a suit. Normally I wear a suit. I just take the jacket off when we do this.
Yeah.
And you can tell because I don't think you should wear a button-down shirt with a suit.
There you go.
So you wear a button-down shirt with a sport coat.
Then that works.
But no, I know people do, but I don't approve. So if I'm wearing a button-down shirt, I'm not wearing a suit.
There you go. So we've been married for 26 years.
You've put up with this nonsense about shirts for 26 years. And what's the proper shirt to wear with a suit?
But I think I think a key for us being married so long is our parents were both married for a very long time.
That is true.
So your parents are married for 40.
Well, they got married in 1947, and my father passed away in 1991. So, they didn't quite make it. Don't ask me to do the math.
I know. And then my parents were married.
They didn't quite make it to 45 years. They made it,
That's a
because
really
my
long
dad.
time.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I misspoke. This is terrible. My father died in 1994. So they made it past 45 years. They were a little short of 47 years. That's what it is.
And my parents, when my dad passed away, were married for 35 years. So I kind of think that does make a difference. Seeing examples of how to weather a marriage and stuff like that through ups and downs.
But we need to have 8 more kids
yeah,
to catch up.
To his family. Nope. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, that's for sure, and it's ironic that we've had warm weather this week because, as we mentioned before, like on our wedding day, it was in the 70s, which was delightful, and just like unexpected, and like I was always worried, like I didn't want to wear a coat like over my wedding dress, like a winter coat that was ugly or whatever, and it's like I didn't have a fur coat, and that's like nobody needed a coat, so that was nice. But we had briefly talked about the photographer.
Oh, right. I forgot.
So I'm going to start with that because it's kind of like a crazy story. So obviously times then are much different from there now, where, it's like you have like you get a whole video, and it's like this whole thing.
Well, they
like
did,
really...
didn't they videotape? Or no, I guess
No,
fam. I
like,
think your brother videotaped.
I think my brother videotaped
That's what
it.
it was. Yeah.
But it's not like a videographer where it's just like it looks like a movie and it's like all put together, whatever.
But you could. I mean, he did offer that. The still photographer offered that as a service.
Maybe I forgot that part. But the part that I remember the most was, okay, so we got married at 4:00 in the afternoon. So kind of a long day to wait to get married. It was just like, seemed like it took forever to get to the 4:00. But I had gotten my hair done, and then I went to my parents afterwards to get ready and everything. And then the photographer's going to come there, take pictures, like in front of my parents' house, whatever. And got there like way early, like 4 hours early, and rang my parents' doorbell. And I was just like in my bathrobe, and I'm like, what are you doing? And wanted to come inside and like sit in my parents' living room. And I was like, you cannot come inside right now, kind of thing. And then he sat in the car.
Were you having cocktails?
Yeah, no. The other part that he took pictures at the wedding, but then he also almost like set up like a backdrop to like take portraits of people.
That's not really all that uncommon though. I mean, things are different now. But yeah, he did set up. So, I mean, obviously he's thinking people would then order. Couples would have their picture taken and order. I suppose you could do it. You could have done like an individual one. Like someone could have gone and just said, I need a picture for work.
Yeah, there you go.
But it was more designed for couples. I guess.
So I think it was more of like geared towards taking pictures of the portraits versus like the event kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
I agree with that.
And actually the company is out of business now. I know that they went out of business a few years after we had our wedding, but
we didn't write a bad Yelp review.
We did not.
That was before Yelp.
Probably.
we didn't. Well, it was really before this 19.
It was before everything.
It was, well, it wasn't. I was going
I
to say it was before the internet, not before 1995.
Yeah.
Not before the internet, but I mean, it wasn't like people used it like you do now. I think the guy had a website. Because I
can't
think you
remember the
could
name.
look up like really basic information about, what it costs, and what services were available.
But the actual wedding part is finally at 4:00 came, and we got married, and then the church that I grew up in is Methodist, and those weddings are very short.
Well, it was, yeah, I mean, it wasn't
Yes,
it wasn't
not like
15 minutes, but
yeah,
it wasn't
it's not
like
an hour and a half.
wasn't like a mass.
Correct. So that part was great because it was just kind of like you get there, you walk down the aisle, and then it's just like, we're married.
Yada yada yada.
Yada yada yada. And then the wedding reception was probably maybe 25 minutes from half hour or something like that.
I remember it being a little bit longer than that. Although we took a limousine, so
Yes.
we didn't really have to worry too much
You
about
didn't
it.
care how long it took. And the actual wedding, the reception was so much fun because, as we mentioned before, it was like a lodge that's in a park district in Hinsdale, and it's like a little mansion kind of thing, and you had the whole thing to yourself. So it wasn't like you're running into different wedding parties or there's different events going on in the same place. So that was really great, and the upstairs part was like where the dancing and drinks were. I mean, drinks were all around, but the dancing and stuff like that. So it was just a fun night. It was a really fun night, and we actually extended it, and we ended up staying there like an extra hour because people didn't want to leave
Because
yet.
you can't get rid of my family.
It is a funny story because since Dave's family is so big, and any time we are leaving a family party, it's like maybe we should take off. Literally, like the soonest that you're gonna leave a party is probably like 45 minutes after that, because you're like keep talking to people on your way out.
They do it now. We do a Zoom call on
yes.
weekends, and it's the same thing. I'll say I got to get going, and invariably someone will say, "Before you go, I just wanted to say," and then it launches a whole nother conversation. Then there's never a break.
And you're like, "And I really gotta go now."
Yeah.
Just shut the computer. Bye.
Well, I've done more or less that.
But it was just a really fun time, and I just remember that day specifically just thinking to myself, like, just pay attention to the details because you're going to want to remember those later, and I still do after all these years.
Yeah.
And then the best part is going on vacation after. We had a day in between, which we could just kind of like relax, but then the next day we ended up going to the Bahamas for our honeymoon, which is awesome. We left at the crack of dawn, before the crack of dawn.
Yeah, that's the thing that I don't quite understand why you always have to catch such an early flight to go anywhere. But
sometimes I like that though, because then it's just like exciting to like get up early and like get there and like start your vacation kind of thing.
You have more of that first day, I suppose.
And I always think like it can't be, you're not going to be super delayed, in the first part, because they haven't, obviously there's flights all night, but I always think that there's not a lot that can happen to disrupt the traffic, kind of the air. But the funny thing is, so we flew from Chicago to Miami, and Miami into the Bahamas, and it was the first time I had been on a small plane with a propeller. Small. I mean, it was really small.
It was a modern plane, but it had propeller engines.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I just remember like going into the airport, when we got to the Bahamas, it was basically just like grass. I mean, it wasn't like any like kind of.
Well, right. I mean, and this was kind of a remote area.
It was
on Abaco, the larger. I don't know the name. It's the larger Abaco Island, but it was. It's still not a very big. There's really only two kind of towns. I mean, there's other little areas where people live. But there's Treasure Key where we stayed in Marsh Harbor, and those really kind of like the only towns on the larger Abaco Island. Anyway, it was a very small airport.
So it like flew into like this little strip of grass kind of thing. We got out of the plane, and then you had to go through like customs, and it was just basically like a one room kind of
Yeah.
thing where you walked in, showed them your passport, and you walked out, and they had limousines there to like
Right.
bring you to your place.
And we weren't staying at a resort. We were staying. I mean, the Treasure Key is kind of like a resort anyway. But we were staying at a colleague's townhouse that he had offered us to.
So nice.
It was very nice. But yeah, that was kind of, so it wasn't like there was a bus going to the particular location.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, that worked out all right.
And the best part too is because it was kind of remote, we almost had like the whole beach to ourselves. It was not very many people. The water was amazing.
Although, it's funny, it was a little spring breaky at certain points, which was kind of funny because, not everybody can afford to go to the Bahamas on spring break. But our 2 trips to the Bahamas in our lifetime were both this time of year. And the last time when we were in Nassau in a casino, there was a pretty big influx of people spring breaking. But in Treasure Key, when it's a more remote location, a lot of townhouses. That's what we were staying in a townhouse, and but there were some young people who were there with their families at least. But they got a little crazy at that little outdoor bar.
There's an outdoor bar that we frequented while we were there.
Because it was the only place to go. Well, that's not true. There were restaurants.
It was really nice though, because it was like open air, and they had like they had yachts around there.
Yeah,
like,
so there's a marina there.
So beautiful boats and everything, and there's a band that played that we still remember.
It wasn't a band; it was a guy.
It was a guy.
He had a music like
Chris
a soundtrack.
the Burner.
Yeah, you can look him up on YouTube and see his videos. He's still around.
They're playing with something on the floor, so that's my chapstick.
Yeah.
Found my chapstick.
Your lip balm. Yep.
Take that.
Yeah. She's making a little bit of a ruckus. Gordy is totally calm. She's just sitting on a chair over here.
She's trying to play this.
And the other cat going nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty wild. And I thought you were going to say the best thing about it was the cinnamon rolls.
Yes, that was very high.
That place, we should look it up. We should have looked it up already. That place was like, they've mentioned it on like the Food Network. The cinnamon rolls are so famous.
They were like as big as my face, and just gooey and
I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah, I hope you can find it.
How do you spell treasure?
But I'm gonna post this tomorrow. But this was us on our wedding day.
You could post it tonight.
I can post it tonight.
And
as you can see, when I was selling in 1995, the puffy sleeves were what was in fashion then. So that's why that's like that.
Cafe La Florence.
That's it.
Treasure Key, Bahamas. Cafe La Florence cinnamon rolls. Oh, it's a TripAdvisor. You can find it on TripAdvisor.
There you go. There's pictures and everything.
Yeah. So, yeah, they were very good. And that was the day, that was funny because, if I remember correctly, we were supposed to go snorkeling that day.
Yes.
And we had arranged, we're supposed to be at the little bar / cafe place, which was right by the marina. We're supposed to meet up there, get on the boat at a set time. We arrived, I don't know, sometime before the time that we were supposed to be there, and they were already gone. They had just taken off. They had enough people, they took off.
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. We never really got like a clarification of like, how did that happen? Did we have the wrong time? Whatever. And then we just never ended up doing that on our trip.
So we went and got cinnamon rolls.
So we got cinnamon rolls and coffee instead. And actually, the best part about it too is because we were staying in a townhouse, it obviously had a full kitchen and everything. So we did go grocery shopping to eat some meals in the townhouse. On St. Patrick's Day, we grilled out on the beach.
We have actually talked about this before, but it's worth repeating.
So we grilled out on the beach and we made
barbecue chicken.
We made barbecue chicken.
That was good.
And we made mashed potatoes. Do you remember that?
Like, out of a box, not real mashed potatoes.
And then our drinking, the drink that we made that night.
You're on vacation. It's okay to have adult beverages.
So they didn't have orange juice, so we were going to do like screwdrivers. So we got vodka, and then they didn't have that. So they had Sunny Delight. So we just mixed it with that.
Which
however,
tastes kind of like that children's aspirin that you had when
It's
you were a
horrible,
kid.
and
It doesn't really taste like actual
they
orange
don't
juice.
really mix well. So
No, they don't mix well at all. It would separate.
The vodka's on the bottom. So if you got a straw and you take a sip of it, you're just basically drinking straight vodka.
It just, no matter how much you mixed it, it would separate. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. So
that's why we don't do mixed drinks.
I've never been a real mixed drinks person, but that was particularly bad.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of like even like margaritas or martinis or any kind of like, I don't know.
I have had vodka martinis before, which I don't mind, but it's not really. I don't really go out of my way for it. But yeah, I would not recommend making a screwdriver with anything other than actual orange juice, real orange juice.
But even back then, I recall that the food prices were rather high.
Yeah, it was kind of.
So
expensive.
the like a dozen eggs were like $6 or $7
But we had
or
that
something.
fancy Bahamian money. It's very colorful.
Yes.
And of course, in those days, U.S. currency was not at all. I mean, it's a little bit more colorful now than it used to be, but it was like very bland. So it was exciting to have the fancy bills that had all the colors, and they had like the little hologram sort of security tape and things like that. Probably not before we had it here, but they were at least current with our money technology.
Yes. And then we did rent a car and drive to Marsh Harbor, which was like maybe a half hour away or something like that. And I remember
it was a little bit of a trip.
driving, and we're just going like off a map, kind of thing of where we're going.
Yeah, because there was no like GPS. You
and I
couldn't look it up on your
remember
phone.
like we weren't sure like if we were like close or thing, and there was like some shacks or some whatever, and I was like, why don't we just pull over and ask somebody? And David's like, you can't pull over and just ask some random person.
Well, in fact, we probably could have. Just, I didn't, at the time, I didn't think it was a good idea. In reality, it probably would have been no big deal. But
yeah, but I don't even think like that. And I was just like, oh, we'll just ask somebody, and it's like everything will be fine. However, we were almost there, so it all worked out, and we had a delightful lunch overlooking the water.
And Marsh Harbor's a lot more built
Beautiful.
up. It's more like a little town, and there's restaurants. I mean, there's restaurants everywhere, but there were more.
And I have to go get it. Hold on one second.
Uh-oh.
Show and tell.
Talk amongst yourselves. Oh, yeah, right. It's a little dusty, though. We should have cleaned it off
I should have
first.
cleaned it off first.
Well, that's all right.
It's okay. So this is sand and shells from the Bahamas. So we've had this the whole time. This is actually a wedding gift also. We've just...
And I think that actually came from Marsh Harbor, because I seem
Yes.
to recall when we were driving back, we stopped at this little beach and there were shells everywhere.
Yeah, because the beach that we were on had no shells at all. So so we've had these forever, and when we've moved, I pour this into like a big Ziploc bag, and then I just like throw it back in here. So we've had this for the longest time.
That's true.
But the fun part is I brought it home in Pringles cans.
Oh, that's true.
So I wasn't sure like how to, like we had empty Pringles cans with the lid on it. So that's what I ended up putting.
Now you probably couldn't do that.
No, they'd be like, what are you doing bringing that back? So it was a great wedding day. Shout out to our niece Andrea.
Oh, it's her birthday.
Because
today.
we got married on her birthday. Obviously, large family on David's side, it's bound to have somebody get married on somebody's birthday. So when we announced when we were going to have our wedding, Dave's sister Mary, who's the mother of Andrea, said, oh, that's Andrea's birthday. And we're like, oh, we can change the date, and everything. She's like, no. I think she was 11 or 12 at the time. So fast forward, when she got married, she picked her wedding date, and it was on our son's birthday. So she was just like, it came full circle, kind of thing. So, just a good time. Good times.
The weird thing is that so a year ago was really the last time that we went out. We went out on our anniversary, and we had no idea what was coming. And the funny thing is your memory is not always perfect. I, for some reason, just recently discovered or was reminded of the fact that on our anniversary, it's kind of like the day everything began to shut down. it was the date that the World Health Organization actually announced that it was, the coronavirus was a pandemic. They finally used that term. I didn't realize. So in the U.S., we'd reached about 1,000 cases, not deaths. There had been some, but about 1,000 cases, which, it's sort of mind blowing to think we went in the span of a year from 1,000 cases to over 500,000 people who passed away. And it also was on March 11th, was also the day that all of the sports leagues started to shut down. And that was the day the NBA announced, because a couple of players had tested positive, that they were just canceling the rest of the season. I didn't remember that it was exactly on that day. We went out to dinner and, we knew there was cause for concern, but things didn't seem as crazy just yet.
Yeah.
And then that was like it. Like from that moment on, just everything went crazy. It was our 25th anniversary. We were planning a trip. It was supposed to be in April because of scheduling conflicts. We couldn't do it at that time. Obviously that got canceled. Our daughter was supposed to go to France the next week with the high school group. Obviously that got canceled, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah.
So it's really, it's kind of a weird thing to think that, we weren't unaware, but we really were kind of like, we had no idea where it was all going.
And I think you could almost say, like, this is the biggest test in a marriage. Can you stay pretty much locked down with people for a whole year? Yes, we can.
Well, that's true for everybody, though, not just
That's true. I know. But it could mess up relationships.
Yeah. Well, and it's not the right way to look at it, but, now things in the courts are back to normal, but imagine if you wanted to get a divorce in the middle of all this. I shouldn't laugh about it because sometimes that can be a very serious thing. There can be reasons why you need to do it quickly. But, a lot of people had to wait because the courts were shut down, and even when they reopened, a lot of times it was just for really, routine things, or everything was remote, or whatever. They were only handling emergencies, whatever it was. So, we shouldn't talk about divorce on an anniversary. But, if the pandemic caused your relationship to go south, you could have problems getting that resolved.
That's true. So, luckily, we've survived.
But it is odd that our, this year was sort of bookended by our 25th anniversary or 26th anniversary. And it's, obviously a happy time when you're celebrating your anniversary, but it's also kind of sad just because of that connection to think about, how much has happened, how many bad things have happened in that period of time, I did hear, and this is off the subject, well, it's on the subject of the pandemic. I did hear that, it's not political, don't worry, I'm not getting into politics, but apparently one of the things the president said tonight, which we didn't listen to him, but is that they want all states to be in a position where they can make the vaccine available to all adults by May 1st. So, in theory, if that works out, as of May 1st, you won't have to qualify. You can just sign up and do it.
Nice.
We don't know. It's one thing for the president to say it. It's another thing for it to come to pass. But that would be a pretty huge thing if that were to happen.
That would be amazing.
So we shall see.
So since we couldn't go out to dinner, we actually ordered in from where we went to dinner last year, a restaurant in our town. So we got that for delivery tonight, which was delish.
Oh, and what else happened when we went out for our 25th last year?
We ran into our midwife who delivered our 3 kids.
that was one of the wildest things.
She was sitting right behind us, and my back was to her, and
she was sitting behind you. She wasn't sitting behind me. She was.
Yeah. So and David saw her get up. Her name is Gail. Shout out to Gail. She's amazing. And so she was there, and we're like, it's our anniversary. So we took a picture with her. So that was kind of fun.
I saw that, I had posted it on Facebook or whatever, so I looked it up and I downloaded it. And what I thought about is, that is the closest we have been to another person who's not in our family in 12 months.
Yes.
Because we took a picture of the three of us standing next to one another. We haven't been that close to a not just a non-family member. We haven't been that close to anyone who doesn't live in this house in 12 months.
Exactly.
Which is just weird to think.
It is very bizarre.
So, but on the other hand, don't blame us because that it started snowballing on our anniversary.
Yeah,
it's not our fault.
We had nothing to do with it.
We had nothing to do with it. We were as oblivious as everybody else.
Yeah. So it's just been, it's just one of those things to think like that time goes by so fast, even though the day seems slow sometimes. It's just all of a sudden it's there. So happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. I did get you a card.
I know I got you. Which is
there?
right there.
Yeah. It is.
It was a very nice card. So we have just been reminiscing about that and enjoying our day, and hopefully soon, we'll be able to get back out there and go on our trip that we had canceled, and hopefully life gets back. So our 27th anniversary will be
we're not
it
won't be on a Tuesday or Thursday, but if we're still in lockdown on our 27th anniversary, you just said it, we're not going to talk about the pandemic.
Yeah.
Mark my words.
That's true. We'll have to find get an island somewhere.
Yeah.
So we'll share some pictures, or the picture that I showed you, we'll share that for sure. But thanks for joining us on our wedding anniversary, and we will definitely see you guys next time. So have a good night. Bye.